Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From the Blindspot, presented by me, Zach. It's race week yet again, and I'm here with your race preview episode of From the Blindspot. This week we have the Chinese Heineken Grand Prix in Shanghai, China. This will be a sprint weekend, so we'll cover what is a sprint weekend, what changes, and we'll also get into what we missed this last week. There's a little bit of news and a little bit of the issues that teams have getting to China. We will also be doing race predictions, some of the betting picks that I have this week, F1 fantasy driver lineup, and we also had FP1 highlights that happened last night, as well as a sprint qualifying that happened last night. So yeah, let's dive right into it. Um, First thing I want to talk about is just Chinese Grand Prix. It got renewed for 5 more years, so till 2030, we will be having the Chinese Grand Prix in the F1 calendar. Here's the issue that I foresee happening in the future with this. Importing things like the cars, all the technical equipment, all of the other things that teams need in order to have a successful weekend have to go through customs. And Chinese customs is a nightmare for any team trying to get into the country for the race, I guess. I don't know. Basically, this week we heard that the FIA had to widen the window for teams to get things to the track because 4 teams didn't have things get through customs in a timely order. It was Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, and Williams. All 4 of those teams had issues getting stuff into the country. So I feel like with more teams going forward, changing of teams like Sauber to Audi, we get Cadillac next year. I have a feeling that this is going to be even more of an issue going forward in the next 5 years. And since there's no Chinese racer anymore, I think after 2030, this race might be gone. I know it's a hot take. I like the track. It looks nice. They have a very nice facility there in Shanghai. And it's a very recent track that they've put a lot of work into. So we'll see how that goes after 2030. But if these customs importing issues continue, I don't see this happening. So that's just my hot take about this race going forward. But yeah, if there's always issues getting stuff into the country, then why should F1 even go there? That's my take. All right, now I'll talk about some fun facts about Shanghai. That I highlighted the bad, now I'm going to give it the good. Uh, the first Grand Prix held at this circuit in Shanghai was in 2004. They were racing at the Shanghai International Circuit. It's inspired by the Chinese character Shang. I'll try and post a picture here on the YouTube for people to see. Shang means to ascend, and the track layout was inspired by this Chinese character. So it's a very cool concept of a track. So yeah, once again posting a picture. Held in it. So the Chinese Grand Prix did host the 1000th F1 Grand Prix in 2019, and Lewis Hamilton is very dominant at this track. He has 6 wins, which is more than double of any other racer, and we'll get into a little bit of Lewis talk later in this preview episode because of what he has done already on the first day of this race weekend. But yeah, those are some of the fun facts that I have for this. Lenovo is a big sponsor here, obviously Louis Vuitton and Heineken. Something to also note is that there are a lot of Chinese advertising restrictions, so a lot of the cars won't have all of their, I guess, rear wing ads or some of their big sponsors put on the cars because it's illegal to do that in some areas of China. Like Kraken on Williams is gone. I think the Red Bull wing sponsor is also gone because now it just says Red Bull on the wing, and Williams just put purple paint over their rear wing Kraken sponsor. So just a little interesting tidbits here and there about the Chinese Grand Prix. Let's review what happened last night. Let's go over the FP1 highlights. FP1 is a very critical session for the Chinese Grand Prix because there's only one free practice session and you only get 1 hour of this practice session. Um, so the schedule for a sprint weekend is that on Friday you have 1 hour of free practice, and then you go straight into sprint qualifying, and then on Saturday you do the sprint race, which for this sprint race it's only 19 laps. And positions 1 through 8 get points. It goes 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 from first to eighth. What else? And then after the sprint race, you have the race qualifying. So you go from an actual race and then you go back to qualifying. And then on Sunday, you obviously have the full length race. All right. So that's kind of how a sprint weekend is set up. FP1, the big things that I wanted to talk about was that there was one red flag for a technical issue. Jack Doohan, sorry. Jack Doohan lost power steering and just like power to the car, which for F1 cars you definitely need power steering, and in IndyCar you don't have that. So there's a little bit of difference between the US IndyCar series and the worldwide F1 series is that they have power steering in F1 cars, they don't in IndyCar. So it's very hard to turn a car on a flat surface when obviously that you're trying to muscle those wheels um, into that next turn. So that's why there was a red flag. They had to remove that car, and unfortunately, Jack Doohan did not get to finish the session and get that needed data for the team going forward for the weekend. So don't expect much from Alpine. Expect some track limits. I feel like in these races, the circuit was newly resurfaced since last year, so it's slick. It's got a lot of, I guess, maybe not a lot of tread wear or grip in it, but yeah, expect some maybe track limits and people going into the gravel here and there on turns. This was kind of a boring session because all the teams completed a lot of laps and there wasn't a lot of crashes, wasn't a lot of traffic, except for the one red flag from the technical issue. Uh, I'm just gonna go give you the top five for FP1. Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell. So it shows that McLaren, they have a lot of they got pace, and so does Ferrari here. And you didn't hear any Red Bull. So it looks like Red Bull might struggle a little, but obviously Max is one of the best drivers or the best driver in the world currently, and he will probably continue to dominate and probably do well. Okay, that's the FP1 highlights. There wasn't much to talk about. Sprint quali. There was a lot that happened in sprint quali here. Um, Liam Lawson, he qualified 20th in a Red Bull seat. He has not been doing very well in this Red Bull seat, unfortunately for him. And it just seems like he has no confidence in the car. Some of the commentators were saying, reviewing his lap after sprint qualifying one session, he's just not got the tire grip that he feels that he needs to have for some of these high-speed corners at the Shanghai International Circuit. And he's just slow. There's like no grip in the car for him. This is kind of concerning for Red Bull and for like Liam Lawson as a driver because we've seen this cycle before. You get a driver in there, they do poorly at Red Bull. Red Bull does not hesitate to get them out of there. They do not hesitate at all. So if Liam does not do well here, it's not looking too good for him for the future. But maybe he can redeem himself in the next qualifying session for the big race on Sunday. But a cute or qualifying 20 in the sprint race is not good, especially when your teammate qualifies P2. Yeah, Max qualified P2 after I said like he wasn't in the top 5 for practice. So he's obviously got some pace in that car around the circuit. Oliver Behrman, so we thought that Haas was going to be maybe a tractor at the beginning of the season, but somehow Ollie Behrman gets out of SQ1 and gets into SQ2 on the last few minutes of SQ1 qualifying. So kudos to you, Ollie. Great job. Um, Other than that, not much else to talk about. For Williams, you had Carlos Sainz get on SQ2. He was not very happy with the feel of the car. He qualified, I think, P12. No, P13. He qualified P13, kind of 5 positions, 6 positions out of the points for the sprint race. But his teammate, Alex Albon, got into SQ3. Great job, Alex. Really strong performance from him. Um, Looking forward to his race because he could actually score a few points because he's currently P9. He's after Yuki Tsunoda in the starting grid currently. So going over the starting grid, this is where things get really interesting. For this 19-lap race at 10:30 tonight, Friday night, we have P1 is Lewis Hamilton, P2 Max Verstappen, P3 Oscar Piastri. So as I got my three shirts, my 3 kits behind me, it's looking pretty good for having an interesting race, a different winner. This is Lewis Hamilton's first sprint pole since 2019, I think. All right, so I'm going to give you the top 8. And then we have P4 Leclerc, P5 Russell, P6 Norris, P7 Kimi Antonelli, top rookie right now, and P8 Tsunoda. And as I mentioned, P9 we have Alex Albon, but also P10 is Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll somehow sneaking his way into this SQ3 and getting a top 10 grid position for this sprint race. As I mentioned, I did mention this wrong. My bad. We're going to correct this. 10 p.m. Friday night. So after you're watched all of the basketball that you've wanted to today and it's kind of winding down for the night, you could turn on this little sprint race that's not going to take very long. They do minute 30 laps, so times 20. What's that? It's like a 30-minute race, about, give or take, depending on red flags and safety cars and such. So if you want to watch a little sprint race from 10 to 10:30, 10:40, and you don't want to go to bed after watching all the basketball, turn on the sprint race. Check it out. It's not that long. It's only 19 laps. I keep saying this. And it's going to be very interesting. We have a great rivalry at the front grid, in the first 2 grid positions. Sorry. And we have Oscar Piastri up there as well. He's a great sprint racer, so expect a lot from him. So I feel early on in this race, we're going to have a lot of Max Lewis beef into the first few laps. I'm excited for it. It's going to be very quick. Very excited for it. Definitely tune in, guys. Definitely tune in. All right. Now that we have covered what has happened this past week and the first day of the race weekend, let's get into some of my predictions and betting picks. So for betting picks, for context, I am not going to do sprint race predictions. I'm just going to do big race predictions. So all Sunday picks, all Sunday predictions. Just hang with me on that. And then we'll get into F1 Fantasy and then what to expect next week for the podcast. So for the betting picks, this is a plus 400 odds. So if you put $1 down, you get $5 back. 1 of your own money, 4 of the casino's money. No retirements in the big race. I know that we just had 6 retirements. We got a lot of rookies. But I feel after last weekend, we got off the rails. We went 0 for 3 in our betting picks. But I feel China is a course this is going to be a better course for rookie drivers, obviously. Hopefully that there's no technical issues that they have. There's no crashes going into the first turn. The first turn is very wide. There's a lot of runoff room. I just feel this could happen here. Obviously, 400 odds is a lot if you're looking at that. But yeah, I'm pretty confident in that one. It's my only plus money bet for this weekend that I want to give you guys. The next one is a minus 105, so kind of even money here. It's over a 12-second win. So that means that the winner wins by over 12 seconds. I feel McLaren is going to have a lot of pace this weekend. They're going to look very strong. I think the closest team to them will be Ferrari, but I don't think that Lando and Oscar will be anywhere close because I'm kind of thinking like one of them will be P1, P2. But I think the McLarens are going to kind of run away with this race. Like it's a longer race, I feel like, and we're going to see Lando kind of show that straight line speed in the dry for McLaren, and he's just going to run away with it. So once again, that's minus 105, and that's over a 12-second win for any racer. Just the margin of win in time-wise is over 12 seconds. My last one is a Red Bull double top 10 finish. It's minus 110 currently, but I think that line has probably grown since we just saw Liam Lawson qualify P20 in a sprint race. He's going to be under pressure. I think he's going to perform in qualifying. They're going to get a lot more data from the sprint race doing 19 laps. Once again, it's minus money, might be plus money now. Don't have the exact odds for that, but a Red Bull double top 10 finish. So that just means Liam Lawson has to get P. And obviously we don't know the starting grid yet. So he could be like somewhere around P10 as long as he gets out of Q1, gets to Q2, he should be okay. Okay, now time for my race predictions. I predict that Lando Norris will win this race by over 12 seconds in P1, and then we'll have Piastri, P2, doing a lot better than what he did at last race. Obviously, he spun out and he was at the back of the grid, but worked his way back up to P9. So that just shows that he has determination. He's very comfortable with this car, and I just have a lot of confidence in him to do well for this race. P3, I currently have Russell, but I'm going to change it to Lewis Hamilton. I think that Lewis Hamilton is going to have a very strong race on Sunday, and that he will probably qualify well and race well, and I don't know, definitely beat out his teammate and Max Verstappen and George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. So that's my predictions. P10, we got Lawson. Once again, this might not be the best pick because just Lawson does not look that comfortable in the car, does not have a lot of confidence, but maybe he could turn it around this weekend after the sprint race, find some comfort in that car, and just kind of be better because right now he's on the hot seat right now. It's not looking too hot for him. Or it is looking a lot, very hot for him for his seat in F1. So my wild prediction, sorry for that long pause, my wild prediction is that Max Verstappen will finish somewhere between P6 and P9. I know that I just said that he has a lot of pace in the sprint race, but I don't know if this Red Bull car can go 50-something laps and keep the pace with everyone, especially if we're looking at a two-stop race, switching tires out for something from probably starting on a medium, going to a hard, and going back to a medium later in the race. But yeah, that's kind of the race strategy that it was last year. It was a two-stop race. Obviously, we have a new surface, so maybe these cars can go a little bit longer on the stints, and it might turn into a one-stop race. We might see the winner or a team try the one-stop, but we'll see how that goes. Obviously, I think a lot of teams will be probably starting on the mediums and then moving to the hards, and then, like I said, one-stop or two-stop, move back to the mediums. Sorry, that was some technical talk. I'm not big into the technical talk, but let's get into F1 Fantasy. And then we'll wrap up this episode, and we'll move on to the race weekend. So obviously a lot of people are probably watching the NCAA tournament games that have been going on. And obviously those are pretty late at night. Obviously there's a lot of games happening. And this race will be happening at 2 a.m. on Sunday morning. So probably won't be able to watch it, but if you are looking for something to watch Sunday morning, maybe you could record it over the night, turn it on Sunday morning, and then do whatever chores you need to do after watching that recording, and then just jump into the basketball again. Yeah. Sorry, we'll get into F1 Fantasy now. So we're going to keep a lot of the same, but we did make two transitions. I feel I switched out two drivers. I still have Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz. I switched out to get Lance Stroll. We still have Nico Hulkenberg, who got a lot of points, did well in qualifying for the sprint race, and Oliver Behrman, who I think will do pretty well in gaining positions if he starts at the back of the grid. It seems like he did a really good job qualifying for the sprint race, so I feel like he can continue his pace in the big race and score some points for fantasy. We're going to keep Ferrari. I feel like they're a strong team, and they're cheaper than the McLaren constructor car. And we have RB, which I feel Isaac Hadjar is still good. He just needs a little bit more confidence, and this is the race where I think he can do it. The track's definitely going to be dry. There's not going to be any weather on Sunday, just probably a little warm. But yeah, very excited for this Chinese Grand Prix. Very excited for these predictions. Very excited to see maybe Williams getting into the points for the big race. I need to see Carlos get some speed and confidence in the car. Right now, he's not very confident with the setup of the car. But hopefully, going forward, things change for William, because we are Williams. They will come back. They will have a successful weekend yet again. Go Albon, go. And that's all that I have to tell you for this race preview episode for the Heineken Chinese Grand Prix. Thank you all for listening. Shout out John. All have a great weekend. Go Badgers. And this is me signing out.